Welcome, everybody. I am Baron Baptiste, and I am here today with David Masters. Welcome to Disrupting the Drift, where we disrupt the status quo of thinking, ways of living, ways of acting, ways of being that limit, that drifting along in life, getting more of the same and mingling in the sea of sameness. And we're here to disrupt that, bring truth, shine some light. How you doing, David?
Fantastic. Always better when I'm with you, brother.
Yeah, really good. Also, please share the show if you get something from this conversation, if you get some kind of value, some kind of insight, something that makes a difference, a contribution to you. Share the show, pay it forward. Also, you can go to Baron Baptiste Podcast on YouTube. We post these on YouTube a couple times a week. And check out Baron Baptiste Podcast YouTube channel. David, how you doing today, buddy? What do you want to talk about? You have something you shared earlier, and sounds super interesting. Something I love about you have a level of insight around spiritual topics and topics of the heart and topics that are uncommon to common people like myself.
Well, I was sharing with you that I had a dream. I've been having some very prophetic dreams lately. And in this particular dream, I saw that the veil between our dimensions, the physical world and the spiritual world, is about as thin as a piece of cellophane.
This is a dream.
Thin.
You're talking about a dream.
Yeah. And to put it in a simple way.
Wait, let me just, I want to understand. Tell me about the dream a little bit. Just all of us. Yeah. What was the dream?
The dream was that, it was just revealed to me how when things happen in this physical world, it immediately and instantly translates from this physical realm into the spiritual. And the way I can describe it is if you're writing with an ink pen, like the old-fashioned ink pen, and you had too much ink on the pen, and when you were writing, it bled through to the backside of the paper. This is exactly the metaphor that I could use when things in this world are taking place, whether it's a good or a bad thing. It immediately translates over from this realm into the spiritual realm. And what came to me is on earth as it is in heaven, and vice versa. I believe that
how about in hell?
The same thing. I'm not
sure
how.
The dark side, the light side. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not sure where, or it wasn't revealed to me other than.
Wait, let me ask you this again. Do you remember? I know often I'll have dreams and then I'll remember certain aspects of the dream.
Yeah.
Or certain things will stand out, but I don't really remember the scene. Was there a scene in the dream?
There was.
Do you recall or?
Very ethereal. And all that stuff that's inside the lava lamps that moves up and down, it's just a glob of stuff.
Yeah.
Okay. In the dream, what I saw was things of this world immediately. There's like a substance of the things that we do in this realm, in the physical world. But the substance of it immediately translates over beyond and through the veil to the next side. That's what I was shown. That's all I was shown. But it was so vividly real to me that I did a 20-minute podcast on it for my other podcast. And what's important is that it was clear to me that there is absolutely no lag in time between what's happening here and what's happening in the next realm, whatever that may be. And it wasn't shown to me any kind of result of any kind. But then later on, I started to realize that this is a compatibility. How can I say it? It's a compatibility process. And what I gleaned from this was we are becoming more compatible with the spiritual realm that we're headed for. So that as we do good things and we have good experiences in this world, it translates over. And so we become more compatible in this realm with the next realm. And so whatever that may be, whether it's a good or bad thing, it's a compatibility process. Us getting ready to be transported through that veil, that little tiny thin veil, from here to there at some point in our future. That's what I saw. And so it's a cause and effect relationship.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Wait, is it compatibility or is it consistency?
I
You
think
know
that
what I
there's a
mean by that?
component of
Like,
both.
is it so? Let me back up a little bit. What I am getting from what you're saying is I've always had a sense that, and especially as when I'm more aware, when I'm in an awareful state, awake, aware, present, I've always had this sense of there's some other field, energetic field or spiritual field or something in the invisible that's present in my awareness in the physical universe, but it's distinct. It's not separate from the physical universe, but when you say bleed over, that kind of rang true for me in that there's something in the background energetically. Like you can see in the world, people operate from kind of where we're coming from, where people are coming from. It could be from a dark place, a negative place, or they could be coming from a good place, whatever good is defined as, but something that's of life affirming, an energy that's of life, vitality, energy, a frequency. It's like there's a frequency in the background, so to speak, that infuses us, informs us as human beings, like we're conduits almost. But there's something that we're who we are individually is consistent with some frequency, energy in the background. If I'm connected to my creator, a higher force, the author of the universe, there's something greater than myself. There's that energy behind me that is greater, whether it's of the negative, the dark again, or of something of the higher. Is it something like that you're speaking to when you say this veil?
Yes. And again, let's talk about the cause and effect aspect of it. The cause and effect aspect, if you hit your thumb with a hammer, you feel immediate pain, right? So the cause and effect relationship is instantaneous. Now, I went and saw the movie After Death. It was produced by Angel Studios, which does The Chosen. They're based there in Utah.
Is that their newer movie?
Yeah, that's the new movie that came out. I think it was just about a week ago.
Yeah, I know those brothers, those guys. I've met them a few times. Actually, it's just last week I had dinner with one of the
amazing
guys. Yeah, cool young guys. Yeah, and what they've done is amazing.
They did this overview of near-death experiences, and I've been studying near-death experiences for about 35 years, maybe 40. And what they show is that when these people like Howard Storm, who had a near-death experience, he died, and instantly he was separate from his body, but his consciousness was still there. And if you look at the near-death experience, you'll see that we are instantly, so the minute we die, instantly we are transported. Now, whether we are transported permanently, and these people that came back to life were not, they were temporarily dead. And so what they were able to do was experience that crossover, that instantaneous crossover from this realm into the spiritual realm. And in the spiritual realm, some people see angels and they have a meeting with Jesus and God. Other people have demonic. 23% of people near-death experiences have demonic, horrifying experiences. What it tells you, though, is that we are already connected, and the cause and effect relationship between this world and the next has already been established long before these experiences ever took place. And a lot of times people have experiences. Mm-hmm. Go ahead.
I was just going to say that's what bounces out, and what you just said about always. It's always already existing. Yes. This other kind of spiritual realm could say it's already always existing. We may not be, and typically we're not conscious of it, but it's always already there's a spiritual realm that's already always existing in the moment, like right here, right now. We're present to that or not. And then we exist in this physical body, in a physical universe. And it's not necessarily separate. It's always already right here. And then these people who die or have these near-death experiences, they have some experience of the other side of the veil, of the physical universe.
Well, they actually,
something like that?
Their consciousness actually pops into, and I want to say instantly pops into that realm, that next realm. Mm-hmm. Now, the compatibility factor is huge, in my opinion. And I think that the whole world would change if people understood. And again, I want to go back to this idea. What I would have shown was that the stuff that looked like the stuff inside of a lava lamp, that's an energy that exists as we are going through our daily lives, even with our thoughts, by the way. There's an energy contained within our thoughts. There's an energy contained within our actions and inactions, but it's constantly transferring or bleeding through that's the cellophane thin veil. And this is what I was shown. It was just like, here goes the energy. It's moving over. It's moving from this realm over into the next realm. And then I realized later on that it is a cause and effect relationship, a causality that causes this bleed over of energy into this other side, whatever this other side is, the spiritual realm. And then there's an accumulation, like sands in the hourglass, an accumulation of the things that we do or fail to do in our life, good or bad, either way. And that this is just, maybe there's another side to this whole thing. I don't know. But what I was shown is this compatibility factor. And that what we are doing is we are becoming either more or less compatible with the world, the realm of the spiritual. Now, and we can't judge other people, by the way. In the position I'm in right now, I have to deal with a lot of homeless people coming off the streets. And I try to look at them and see them as the human being, not as the pathetic human being, the person.
You're saying
that
like
they
in
become.
work you're doing. In
the work
your
that I'm
everyday
doing.
life. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I try to step back and not react to the fact that they stink and they don't take care of themselves and they're filthy. I try to go beyond that and look at them to see where their spiritual self is. And I want to look at them the same as any other person, because what I realize is it's not for me to judge. So again, there are these really subtle factors involved in our everyday lives. And if you take a look at people who think that they are better than other people, you don't know who you're dealing with. You don't know if one of those filthy people that comes in off the street is an angel in disguise, and it's just a test for you. And the test is. Go ahead.
I just want to. When you say they're dirty, filthy people, it's actually that's what they're wearing, in a sense.
Yeah,
it's on the obvious, right? They're dirty. They're not bathed. But you can see. I know exactly what you're speaking to. Is that when I see homeless people or people living in LA, I'm walking down the street or driving and seeing people, they're talking out loud to themselves. They're in the subway stations. But what people don't realize is those people, we all can become that. But there's something, a lot of those people are strung out, right, on meth or fentanyl and it opens them to some portal, perhaps.
Yes.
Like they lose that natural. I've always sensed from the time we're born, we have a natural protective force, like a spiritual, but benevolent. There's something that wants us to live and live true and live of truth and light. And there's something that we're protected in a sense. Now, we may still be born in a fallen state, but we're still fundamentally, there's something where if we cross a certain line, which drugs can do that to people, enough drugs, enough hatred in your heart, enough pent up resentments, enough unforgiveness, it can open a portal. And you can see, okay, there's a surface, and then even people who have it that they're better than others, there's something operating in them, or maybe better said, through them, that's not even of them. And there's something that we all have that. But what I love what you're speaking to, the ability to be able to see beyond the obvious, beyond the physical. Yes. That's what you're pointing to.
Yes. And not only that, but the compassion when you deal with people who are lost but not gone. What they feel is whether or not you have contempt for them, whether you have resentment, whether you look down your nose at them, or whether when you look in their eyes, they see the love of something greater than you. right? In
Yeah.
other words, they see something greater than you looking at them. And this is what I'm talking about, this veil. And I've heard amazing stories of
wait,
people.
that you just said something so important. Let me just say this is you hear so many people who have said at points in their life when they've completely hit bottom, completely bottomed out in their life. They've hit a hard bottom. They have lost their sense of self. They've lost maybe everything physically. They've been homeless. They've been strung out on drugs. But you'll hear those people say that someone saw me. Someone said something to me that elevated me, that gave me enough hope or enough possibility to actually resurrect my life.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to step over that because I think that when we don't, what I'm hearing you say, when we're not coming from judgment, or better than, but that judgment where we're almost playing judge, jury, executioner, playing like God and judging people, you actually can allow for that person, their soul in there, their spirit in there, to receive something that can actually resurrect that aspect of themselves. And maybe it has to do when we change our ways, we're aligning to something higher, something better, something
right there,
life affirming. Yeah.
There is the third component that I was looking for. And the third component of this is that just as substance of our actions and our thoughts and our deeds here in this world translate over through this very thin veil, I just realized that the same thing happens from there to here, that there is substance, there is energy, there is a force that translates over through that veil into and through us toward others. That's the third component that I was looking for. Mm-hmm. That was the thing that I was missing. And so that it's a constant exchange between our world, the way that we are dealing with people, the way that we are facing every moment as an opportunity or as a challenge, and then how that translates over from here to there. But at the same time, that veil is so thin that the spiritual substance of what's over there in that next realm translates over here through us and into other people. There it is right there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You know what else I get from what you're saying and just this conversation right here is that when we elevate our lives through, to me, it's often through letting go. It's through forgiveness. It's through giving things up. It's, again, one of Buddha's tenets of suffering. One of there's three. One of the three tenets of all suffering for human beings, Buddha said, one is attachments. When we have attachments to blame, fault, playing the victim, holding this kind of poison, resentments and judgments toward others, unfinished business, so to speak, incompletions, holding judgments against ourselves, holding that anger, resentment, fear. When we start giving those things over, giving those things up, letting those things go, emptying our cup, clean the inside of the cup. It opens us up to a different energetic force, life force. Suddenly we get life back, but we're consistent with a different kind of frequency, a different energy, an energy of love from the background, from the invisible. And it shines through into the visible, the physical. Our own bodies get recovered from health, stress, whatever, all the stuff of stress, the stories and the resentments and all the source of stress, resistance of different forms. As we lighten up, we brighten up from a higher force, a different force, from the invisible into the visible. Is it like that? And let me say I want to say one thing. Go ahead. You're going to say something. Say it, and then I'll say what I want to say.
Well, what you triggered while you were talking, you triggered in me the quote from William Blake from his book, The Marriage of Heaven and Hell. He says, if the doors of perception were cleansed, everything would appear to man as it is, infinite. For man has closed himself up till he sees all things through narrow chinks of his cavern. And that is so true. If the doors of perception were cleansed, and this is part of what we're discussing, is the cleansing that needs to take place in each of our hearts, because everyone carries with them a lot of programming that they have been given through. And for example, in India, and you've lived in India, you've been in an ashram, you've seen the tiered system of what you live on one side of the street, you're nobody, you live on the other side of the street, you're somebody. The doors of these perceptions that we've been given need to be cleansed. In other words, let's just take and just wipe them all clean so that we can see things as they really are. Now, your thoughts?
Yeah, no, very good. So a thought that comes to mind is drugs. So back to like people who, okay, it could be drugs. You're taking drugs and you lose yourself. You disassociate from yourself, whatever self is, but your core identity, like who you are, the essential self, you could say, the true self, the child of God self. When you disassociate from that innocence, that inner sense, innocence is I don't know if that's a proper definition of inner sense, but innocence.
Yeah, I like
to
that.
me, it's like inner sense. There's an inner sense of self. When we lose that through drugs, or enough wrong living, so to speak, the word evil, living from evil. If you spin the word evil spelled backwards is live.
Yeah. So by the way, lived spelled backwards is devil.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
That's so interesting.
Yeah.
So it's if you're living out of alignment with the laws of mind and of higher mind, and the body, if you're living out against those natural laws that I think we're intended to live from and live by, and we go against it enough, we start going against life itself, the laws of life.
Yes.
And we start living in like evil, like backwards,
yes,
so to speak. And we're living in a way that's degenerative. It's degrading to the natural systems of body, mind, being, spirit. And what I wanted to say this. So a few weeks ago, I do some mentorship for young entrepreneurs and new businesses that are opening. And it's partly through an organization that works with young entrepreneurs, younger. When I say young, newer businesses, it may not be chronological age per se, but new businesses, newer entrepreneurs building their businesses and internationally. This is like a week after what happened in Israel, where the Hamas like terrorists came in and all that happened. We had a gathering, and there were about 10 businesses from Israel. They flew into the U.S. I had the opportunity to sit with each of those businesses, and there were a boatload of other entrepreneurs from other places, Europe and Asia and around the US and Canada that came in for this. But getting to speak with there was one Israeli woman in this group, and I got to it was really pretty amazing to get to hear directly from these Israelis. They literally just went through the experience like a week earlier. There was this one young woman who was sharing with me, young entrepreneur. She was there trying to raise capital for her new business in Israel. And she was saying she had lost she was like in her late 20s, I want to say. She had lost a lot of friends and family in those attacks, but she had lost a lot of friends that she grew up with. Do you remember that one of the events during that Hamas attack, there were a lot of young people at, I don't know, was it like a
music
rave?
festival.
It was like a music festival, rave. She said many like friends that she went from grade school and high school with were there, and she lost several friends. And one thing she shared with me, and it just stuck out in my mind so powerfully, she said a lot of these people, it was like a rave, and it happened at 6 a.m. or something like that, early morning, that attack. But they had been going all night dancing. Mm-hmm. So the sun was rising. It was early in the morning. They had been going all night dancing. But she said a lot of those people were on, I think, like ecstasy. They were on whatever kind of drugs they use at those raves to get I don't know, they do the kind of, I don't even know what those kind of, that domain of drugs are called, but it's like ecstasy and stimulants, maybe MDA,
Yeah.
acid, LSD, things like
Right.
that. And
Right.
she said they're tripping. Basically, they're really tripping. And to be attacked in such a violent, all of a sudden, guys are coming out in parachutes and shooting people up, and they're being hunted down. It was interesting how that she had pain about that. I could see like the way she was sharing that what a way to go though. And it occurred to me that wow, that's why I don't like drugs. I can't really smoke pot. I'll drink alcohol a little bit here and there, but I never want to get too far from that innocence, inner sense.
Yeah.
That inner, I don't want to lose myself. I don't like doing things where I'm in the experience of losing myself or disassociating from myself. And I say this partly, we also never know when it's our time. We never know when we're going to die.
That's
right?
true.
The ceiling could fall in right now.
Yep.
We just don't know. We could walk outside and get struck by a car. We just don't know. But there's something that I don't want to, when I go, I want to have been living my life as awake and as aware as I can and live a good life and be the best kind of person I can be for others, for myself. And when the time comes to die, I don't want to be totally in some spaced out, checked out mode. At least as best as possible, right? There's not like even just in a moment of being on your phone or checked out, it's like being checked out can come with a lot of consequences that are much greater than just the obvious. That's what I wanted to say.
Yeah, no, it's very clear, and I appreciate that story. I did hear one story myself of a young woman that was at the rave who hid under the dead bodies. Yeah. And so she had the wherewithal to pretend that she was already dead and pulled bodies on top of her. And she survived to tell that tale. But without some kind of degree of awareness, we're all vulnerable. The dark side prowls like a lion. It waits for people to be in a situation where they're vulnerable, where they're easily taken. And man, I'll tell you, when I was young, I would smoke marijuana with my friends, and then I would try to go surfing. I couldn't surf when I was high. So it was like, it never worked for me either. It's like I couldn't feel what I was doing. I was too disconnected. I don't ever want to be disconnected from what I am supposed to be, where I'm supposed to be, who I'm supposed to be. Nothing like that works for me. I can't drink. It doesn't do anything for me. It gives me a headache. So the idea is that we are already connected to the other side. And all we're doing is building a relationship with the other side every single day that we live in. And this is why life is so short. Everybody says, yeah, life is short. It is short. But the other side of this is, I saw a perfect illustration of eternity. And it was a piece of rope with a little red piece of.
Is this your dream again?
No, this is actually something I saw a pastor lay out for eternity. He said he took a little 6-inch piece of red tape and he wrapped it around this rope that went on forever. And he said, this is the average lifespan of a human being, this little 6-inch piece of red tape right here. This is how long you live, 80 years. And the other side of that goes on forever. And I think to myself, there is no temporary thing in this world that's worth substituting or sacrificing for the rest of what goes on down that line forever.
Yeah.
And so the idea was, and again, my dream was just showing me that the compatibility issue is huge. And if people were to think about the compatibility issue, not combatability, but compatibility. And of course, there are people that have combatability, which is they're fighting with reality all the time. These homeless people that come in, they're there by choice. There are programs that will take these people in, rehabilitate them, give them a place to sleep and all the rest of it. They don't want to be somehow controlled by the circumstances of their life, and yet they are. And so there are a lot of things going on in the human sense, in the spiritual sense, and that our worst enemy is ourselves. If we are judging, first of all, other people, that's going to reflect on how we see ourselves, whether it's good or bad. And that compatibility aspect is accumulating somewhere like sands of an hourglass. And so I would say, just we talked about this, I think, in our last program, this bag of bricks that we carry around. Drop the bag of bricks. Just realize one thing. You're carrying all these ideas that you've been given, that you've been programmed with, that you don't even know if they're actually viable ideas. Most people don't even know what they're doing or why they're doing
like
it.
ideas that we adopt.
Exactly.
We adopt.
Yeah.
And culturally and in collective narratives and groupthink, or starting with our own families, starting with our own parents.
Absolutely.
We adopt, but we don't realize we're adopting. We think it's our ideas. And we hear it. Was it Hitler that said, if you tell people a lie enough and you keep repeating the lie enough, they start believing it as truth? Something like that. Right?
Yes, exactly.
And we're in a sea of it's what air is to a bird and what water is to a fish. We're so immersed in these cultural narratives, these cultural stories. And if you look in the media or social media, just all the propaganda, and I say propaganda, but it may be there's intentional propaganda, you could say, being pumped out through news organizations. But then there's also propaganda that just the sea of all the same, the kind of group think culturally that we take on just through repetition that lowers the standard of living life true. And I think that's what pointing to, like, really thinking for oneself, really living true to oneself. That journey is between you and the mirror. It's between each person. Life is a full-length mirror at the end of the day. And are you living from some kind of original source from within yourself? Or are you just taking on, the sea of opinions and the sea of ideas and thinking that actually isn't your own? And you lose yourself in that. You don't know who you are in all of that. At a certain point, it becomes normal. It's like wearing glasses in life through these colored lenses, colored glasses. And it's like you're wearing glasses right now. When you can forget that you're wearing glasses. The other day, I was like looking around for my glasses because I don't need glasses for the general kind of living. But if I need to read something up close, then I put my glasses on. I was looking, I'd been reading, and then I was like, and then I left my glasses on. I was walking around my house doing some things. I'm like, where are my glasses? I literally was like looking around for 3 minutes, and I'm like, wait, Mike, they're on my face. But I think we can see life through certain color glasses, and we don't even realize we're seeing life through certain glasses. But when we take those lenses off, it's like a whole other world, a whole other reality. And I think that to empty out oneself, to let go and to come back, to live true is really to come back to truth is what's important.
Yeah. Yeah. Look, I think we are giving ourselves brain damage. Mentally, spiritually, and then that causes physical. And take a look at these homeless people. Some of them are still like the young men. It's interesting that I just want to make this observation. Many of the young men that are homeless and filthy dirty and just living in this squalor, they still have the face of a young man. They are not destroyed yet. But then the women that come in, you've seen these pictures of these women that are on crack, and you see how it just deforms the face and just it withers the body. I think that women carry a heavier burden of homelessness because women are generally thought of as being the fairer of the two. And women that come in, you could see that their spirit has already vacated the body, and they're just there waiting for a death's door, waiting for it all to come to an end. A lot of those young men, they'll come in, and you want to tell them there's more for you. And I actually often do. I say, there's more for you. There's a better life waiting for you. And they just look at me like, and they've already thought of it. And it's true for all of us. You know what Mark Twain said about the truth? He said, if you tell the truth, you don't have to remember anything. And so if we are telling ourselves lies, if we're believing lies, we're constantly in a state of being deceived and misled. And we're going down a wrong path, and we know it.
Well,
and so Go ahead.
Yeah. Yeah. I was just going to comment too on you're speaking about the men, like young homeless men. You could see they're still there.
Yeah.
And then with women, they're not there. But I'll push back on that. And I see both. I've
Yeah.
seen both. There are plenty of young guys that they've actually, it's almost like they're gone. They're not there.
Yeah.
But this is what I want to point to with women. It's women have what is it? Like a spiritual fragility.
Yes.
There's like something they are almost like more sensitive.
Yes.
There's a sensitivity like with guys, younger guys, I don't know about younger, just in general, there's something that depending on how destroyed someone gets, but I think women run the risk of, because it's almost like they're closer to a spiritual veil or something.
Yeah.
I don't know if but it's something like that where it almost is more like immediately dangerous.
Yes.
For women, where it depends how far and destroyed the young guy or guys are, but there may be a more of a durability or something. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
something like that.
I agree. And what my observation is that the self-judgment, some people come to a conclusion that they have gone too far. And when you believe that you've gone too far, that there's no way back, if you do enough terrible things to yourself or to other people, it's easy. That voice inside of you says, yeah, there's no hope for you. And then when you surround yourself with other toxic people, those people reinforce that. So it's the self-judgment.
Yeah, wait, I want to say something. That's an important point too.
Yeah.
I think if you can actually still think that you've gone too far, or you can actually still believe that you've gone too far, you haven't, because you're still there to even believe that. I think when you've really lost completely, you've all those inner walls, protective walls of identity and self are gone. Does that make sense? Yeah. If you can still believe you've gone too far, you can still recover. You can still recover.
Listen, anything is possible. And that's what I think that the takeaway from this particular episode is, that there is an ebb and flow of constant energy between realms of physical and spiritual. And this is just something that I saw and it really actually changed my way of looking at everything, because I realized that even my thoughts transfer immediately from here to there. But the moment I realized that, then I began to see other things. And there was like peeling the onion. There are more layers to this. There is a force over there that wants to retrieve every single human being. There's a force from where we came that's there trying to figure out a way to get back to us. And even if we're not trying to get back to it, it wants to get back with us. It wants to rejoin with its vehicle, because that's what we are. We're vehicles in this world. We're here to do something, to spread a message, to do good deeds, or the vice versa part of it. But for the most part, we were meant to do good toward each other. And I think the 23% of people that have near-death experiences that are negative and terrifying means that about 75% or thereabouts of people are actually inclined toward good. Most of us are inclined toward good. Then there's something that wants to pull us away from the good. There's something and I think that those people that I'm talking about, they are oppressed. There's something that lives upon them. There's some force that tries to keep them from, because who knows what they could do when they come back from that realm that they've been in, the homeless realm. I've heard amazing stories of people who lived under bridges and then went on to become entrepreneurs and have multi-million-dollar companies.
One of my best friends, he lives in New York City. He was a cop in New York City years ago, this 35, 40 years ago. He was a cop. He's an older gentleman, amazing guy, one of my best friends on the planet. He tells an amazing story. His background, he was a cop. He ended up losing his job or whatever. He quit, but he ended up homeless in New York City, strung out on heroin. He was a heroin addict, lived on the streets, homeless, strung out on heroin for years. Someone helped him. Something happened there, and he changed his whole ways. He changed his whole life. He's become, he owns amazing restaurants in New York City. He's got an amazing business that he runs that's in the kind of security realm. And he's got kids. He's raised his beautiful kids. He's done like he's just such, to me, a walking example of someone who has taken his life from hitting bottom, living at bottom. And it just amazing to me how we human beings are malleable. We are malleable, and we can always, like, from right now, change whatever we want, in what ways to live the life we want and to become the person we want to become. That's always available to us, even when the mind says different. And to me, there's physics involved. You start doing things, you start walking, you start, I don't know, doing yoga, you start getting in touch with nature, you start spiritually, you get quiet, you meditate, you pray, you start living in ways that contribute to others rather than being parasitical. You start being someone who contributes to others, and you start living this way. It's the actions you take, and you start coming from a higher place. That higher place starts elevating you. It just does. It changes you. The transformation is available for everyone. Let's wrap up. I have one last story I'll share really quick. Did you have any last words?
I just wanted to share the words of C.S. Lewis. He said, if we find ourselves with the desire for nothing in this world can satisfy, the most probable explanation is that we were made for another world.
Yeah.
So
beautiful.
think about that. That's deep.
Yeah. I'll tell a quick story and we'll wrap up here. There was one of my trainings, boot camps, trainings. You attended a couple of those back in the day.
Fantastic.
And there at those trainings, we look at what is it to be an authentic human being? What is it to give up all of the complaints and the resentments and the blame and the fault and living as a victim? What is it to give up trying to dominate your surroundings, dominate other people? What is it to be someone who lives in and for possibility? What is it to live in love? And what is it to make a difference in the world, in your life? And so we look at all this stuff, right? And there was a man there at one of these trainings years ago, and he went through the training, and he was a very successful, I think he was like a billionaire, very successful man in business. But during the training, he started sharing on how he had really killed off most of the relationships in his life, including the relationships with his children, his own family, but business relationships, people in his community. Like, people did not like this guy. But he was sharing, like, that's who he had been and been living his life. He was just driven to step on people and just get what he wanted for himself, selfish, all that. Then, so the training ends. It was like a week-long training. He goes home and training's over. I don't think about any of this after. But then about 6 months later, I get a letter in the mail, snail mail, it was his wife. And she said, I just want to thank you, Baron. She said, my husband, after your training, it changed everything for him. He came back home and he went and he made amends. He forgave himself. He said sorry to his kids, to people in his life. He just went to everyone that was important to him, and he basically made amends and cleaned it up. And she said, and he died. He passed away. But she said, I want to thank you because he died in peace. She said, at his deathbed, he was surrounded with his kids, friends that were really most important in his life. And he said he had been able to transform and shift who he had been. And he said, and he died he was in a very peaceful, free state in his last days. And she said, I just want to thank you because that was a gift that he got from going through your training. And I remember just sending a quick note back and I said, thank you. And that was him. I provided the environment and the tools, but he went and changed his life. And I think that's the crux of what we're talking about here. Me, it's what are you aligning to in the invisible? What are you aligning to and living true and truing up. It's not about being perfect, but you do have say in the matter in your basic approach to life and who you're being and what you're doing. And it's never too late to change, actually.
Yeah. I will just add to this first with another quote from C.S. Lewis. He says, "The Christian does not think God will love us because we are good, but that God will make us good because he loves us." Okay. Yeah. So there's nothing you can do to prove to God that you are lovable because he already loves you. It's okay. Yeah. It's okay. Second part of
beautiful.
Is that I've been in this work since I was about 23 years old. I don't know how many people's lives I have touched, but I know I've touched maybe hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people. And I don't really know any of them. Yeah. And what I'm looking forward to is that in the translation, in the bleeding over of this world into the next, I can't wait to meet those people on the other side.
Yeah, beautiful.
Yeah.
All right, my friend. Thank you. You all, thank you for, if you've stayed this far into the episode today, thank you. Please share the show and stay blessed, stay true, keep defying the lie. And until next time, peace out.